Well, hello! Welcome back to my channel, Jashana here, to talk about a friggin' book series. I have talked about all of these books already in various recent wrap-ups. I just felt like getting a little bit more in-depth with it and getting a bit spoilery and essentially highlighting a lot of the tabs that I used and showing quotes from the book to showcase different things I liked or didn't like. And honestly, I'm gonna give a forewarning that there is a particular character that I fucking hated in this book series named Dara. And if you love Dara, you read this series and you love Dara, maybe don't watch this video because I need to get out my feelings on this man, my God. First, I will just give the general premise of the series and then my ratings for each book. So this book series is technically an adult series. I did state regarding one of the books, I don't remember which one when I was talking about it, that I do feel that this is a good transitional series if someone is used to reading almost exclusively young adult fantasy and wants to get into more adult fantasy. I do think that this is a pretty good kind of transitional series. This takes place in an 18th century Cairo initially, so it is historical. There are places mentioned that are actual places in our world, but it is fantasy because there's a bunch of magic and magical creatures involved. We start off in City of Brass with our main character, Nari, who is a con woman living on the streets of Cairo, basically just trying to survive. She does palm readings. I think I remember she does some tarot readings and healings and so on. But one night she accidentally summons an actual Jinn warrior. And this warrior tells her that there's a magical hidden city, Daevabad, across the desert where she has some history and she belongs there, according to him. And she learns that some of the kind of weird things that would happen, her seemingly supernatural healing abilities, they are actually real and actually magical. So these two are off to Daevabad and things ensue from there. There's a lot of court intrigue, politics, scheming, strategizing, backstabbing, and in the city of Daevabad, there are I'm pretty sure six different Jinn tribes living there. And there is a lot of bad blood between these tribes, and there are also people of mixed blood who are humans and Jinn. They are called Shafit, and there is also a lot of bad blood between some of the Jinn tribes and the Shafit, and some Jinn tribes think the Shafit should be protected, others don't. There's a lot of human rights things going on. There's also a fair amount of family drama, I guess, going on in this book with the ruling family in Daevabad. So that is the general premise. Without getting spoilery, and then my ratings for the three books. I gave the first book, City of Brass, 5 stars. I thoroughly enjoyed it. The characters drove me nuts a few times. There's 3 main POVs that we're following: Nari, Ali, and then Dara. Dara is the Jinn warrior that Nari summoned, and then Ali is a prince of Daevabad. So yeah, I enjoyed the book, and I think the world building is what really gripped me in that first book. Like, we're getting to know what this world is like, and I was just very swept up in it. And the ending was just, I really enjoyed the ending of it. I was so hyped for the next book, which is Kingdom of Copper. I ended up giving that one 4.5. It is in this book that I started to feel some kind of way about Dara, but I still was like, okay, all right, whatever. And honestly, in this one, Nari was bothering me a fair amount. And then the third book, Empire of Gold, I enjoyed. I liked the conclusion of, the whole trilogy. I did enjoy how things ended overall. However, I was at this point so frustrated with one of the characters just beyond, and it brought my enjoyment down a fair amount. And I also at this point was getting a bit frustrated and kind of over the leadership and what they were doing, and there's this whole theme of we have to be really ruthless to keep people in line. And the people were wanting to revolt because they were like, we don't like how we are being treated. We don't like how you're treating these other people. There's a lot of tension between these groups, and leadership isn't doing anything to help with it. And so, like, we're going to revolt. And then leadership being like, see, look at what happens. We need to crack down even more. And it was just this repetitious cycle of cracking down more and more and being like, the people need us to be ruthless in order to keep them in line and keep things peaceful. But things were not peaceful, and things were getting less and less peaceful because of people's frustration. And so it just, like, the logic was non-existent, and none of this was made to be good. Like, it wasn't presented in the book that the leadership was making the right choices at all. But it still just made the reading experience very frustrating for me personally. So I brought the rating down slightly on this one as well to 4.25. That's still pretty high for me. If you've been here for a minute, you know that. But yeah, it did get increasingly less of an enjoyable reading experience for those reasons. So all right, now I'm going to just talk a little bit more about some things, and this will get pretty spoilery, I imagine. So again, here is yet another warning for you. If you have not read this and you plan to, step away and don't come in the comments being mad at me for spoiling anything when I told you many times. So yeah, the biggest thing about this series that I think I just love is the world building. I really enjoy a Middle Eastern, North African inspired world. And in this series too, there's a lot of history of this world and the mythology of this world, which I love. And then also what I enjoyed was like I said, the family dynamics and the cultural dynamics. Even though it was frustrating what the leadership was doing, it was interesting to see how all of this bad blood started and how it has shifted over the years, over the centuries, because the jinn live for centuries. So through all these generations, seeing how the views have shifted over time. So themes, I mean, like I said, how the leadership was, and there was definitely a theme that kind of got referenced a few times of violence against oppressors being inevitable and also sometimes necessary. Right here, we have someone who is kind of part of this secret underground revolution. And they're talking to a prince, and this person is saying to the prince, you know how desperate our lives are here. Your people should be happy more of us haven't resorted to violence. And the prince says, are you condoning such a thing? And he says, of course not. Don't be absurd. But when our girls are snatched off the street to be used as bed slaves, when our men are blinded for looking at a pureblood the wrong way, is it not to be expected that some will fight back any way that we can? It's your father's fault things have gotten this bad. If the Shafit were afforded equal protection, we wouldn't be forced to take the law into our own hands. So that's a theme kind of throughout of like, we are literally desperate. What else do you want us to do? There was also a theme that I saw happening a little bit of, like in places it was like family loyalty versus integrity, but kind of just loyalty and like duty and honor versus integrity, and which are you going to choose? Are you going to sacrifice your integrity and your character in order to uphold your loyalty to your family or to whoever, your duty that you're honor bound to, what, you know what I mean? All of that. There was a good example of that with Ali in particular. He experienced this a lot because he had, man, in the first book, I'll get into characters a little bit more, but he's like a religious zealot, hardcore. I was like, bro, stop. But so he had a very, very strong moral compass, moral code that often went against what his father was doing. So he struggled with that a bit. And there's this part where he's talking with someone about this, about kind of his views and things he has done. And this person says, You won't be able to continue like this, Alizade, he warned, to keep walking a path between loyalty to your family and loyalty to what you know is right. One of these days, you're going to have to make a choice. And the whole cycle of violence and cycle of hatred, I mean, that just kept happening, and it's very frustrating to read about, but it was definitely a theme throughout the series. In the second book, where is it? Ali, again, he's often in the middle of these things, these conversations. He says, no, I wasn't afraid. I was tired. I'm tired of everyone in this city feeding on vengeance. I'm tired of teaching our children to hate and fear other children because their parents are our enemies. And I'm sick and tired of acting like the only way to save our people is to cut down all who might oppose us, as if our enemies won't return the favor the instant the power shifts. And oh man, I love that, because that's what I was feeling the whole time. I'm like, gee, I'm tired of this also. Like, this is so stupid. So getting into the characters, Nari, I generally liked Nari a lot, by the end especially. I felt like she had really good character development, because in the first book, she frustrated me from time to time. In the second book, I was like, what are you doing? You're not doing anything. I need you to do something. Please, do something. She wasn't doing shit. And then in the third book, she also annoyed me a little bit. Well, was that the second book? Oh, yeah. No, in the second book. Yeah. She was annoying me a lot, actually, in the second book. And then the third book, I came around where she wasn't irritating me as much, and she was being kind of a badass, which I was waiting for. And then she became more of a badass, and I was very happy about that. And yeah, I don't know, I enjoy her as a character for various reasons. But yeah, annoying things. In the first book, I'll get more into this also, but her and Dara as romantic interests, I just never bought it. Like, in the first book, they travel together from Cairo to Daevabad, and it takes them like a couple months, if I remember correctly. And at first, they like kind of hate each other, because she's Shafit, and he's just like, I hate you and all your people. But then, just like by proximity and spending time together, they talk a little bit. But like, they get to talking and having a, mutual respect for each other, or not totally hating each other. And then they're making out one night. And then they're like this passionate love, unrequited, pining after each other for literal years. And I just can't with that. I don't know. I'm just, move on, is how I feel. Like, there was barely anything substantial for a foundation for them, from my perspective. I just didn't buy it. On this little journey, there was never this like super romantic chemistry between them. I didn't personally feel like there was really any chemistry between them. I don't know, I just didn't feel like there was anything in common, any conversation they ever had that made me believe, oh no, they really love each other. I just was told that they loved each other, and I was like, okay. So that was annoying. Then they get to the city and like almost never see each other again after they're in the city. And like can't be together, so they're not. And they just always act so like, oh, there's Dara, the one I wish I could have. And Dara being like, Nari, I love her so much. I'm like, why? Based on what? I just didn't buy it, and it annoyed me a little bit. And then she also annoyed me because she's training to be this like Nahid healer. She has these healing powers, magical fucking powers. But she has to like train and like learn how to do this stuff. And there's this guy where they have to do this really dangerous procedure. But like if they don't, he's going to die. So Nizreen, her like assistant and mentor, is trying to like prompt her to do it and being like, this is how you do it. We've practiced. You got to do it. He's going to die. Like, you got to do this. And she's just like, I'm nervous. Oh my God. Like, And then she's fucking trying to do it. And she goes, I can't. I'm going to hurt him. He's going to fucking die if you don't. Like, again, characters being just so illogical because of their, like, emotions. Like, I get it. You don't want to, like, be the reason that he dies. But you being all nervous about it isn't helping. He's going to die if you don't attempt. And you got to just calm down and attempt it. You've been trained, like, just do the damn thing. What, like, this, like, oh no, what if I hurt him? Bitch, he's gonna die! Like, it just made no sense to me. I was so annoyed. And then, towards the end, after Dara has been killed, like, she has learned that why he's called the Scourge. I think at this point she had learned. She'd at least heard rumors of the awful atrocities that he carried out against Shafit people, innocent people, whatever kind of people they were innocent people. And he did terrible things and slaughtered these people. And Ghassan is basically asking her to lie or whatever, and like a lie about what happened and how he died. And she's like, so expose me. I don't care. I'm not going to help you slander his memory. And Ghassan points out, slander his memory? He's the scourge of Kizi. This lie pales in comparison with his actual atrocities. And I'm like, yeah, exactly. Like, girl, what? Calm down. Like, slander his memory. You barely know him. And then, like I said, in the second book, she was really irritating me because in the beginning, she keeps, like, trying to fucking escape. And then people, innocent people, like, in this one, her serving maid, I think. Yeah, one of her maids gets her tongue hexed and she can't ever speak again. And then she does it again and he found out again and he dragged in a guard that she had snuck past and scourged him, aka whipped him within an inch of his life. And then she tries again. And I was like, you're fucking rude and, like, just, what? Why do you keep trying? Stop. You're not gonna fucking get out by, like, I'm just gonna sneak out of the city. Bitch, what? Oh my God, I was so irritated. Like, the first time, and then it's like the second time, and then this happened. The third time, I'm like, what the fuck? Stop, man. And then she's going around the city with Zainab, and she's like fucking haggling with a merchant, and freaking the guy tells her, like, oh, this is how much. And she's like, 3 dinars? Do I look as though I'm made of gold? Because she's dressed up, like, to look like a commoner. And then he's like, that's the price, miss. Maybe for someone else, she said scornfully, masking her glee while feigning insult. I won't give you a coin over 10 dirhams. He gaped, but that's not how Zainab was suddenly there, seizing Nari's arm in a tight grip. What are you doing? Nari rolled her eyes. It's called bargaining, sister dear. I'm sure you've never had to do such a thing, but Ghaziris do not bargain in our community markets. Zainab's words dripped with revulsion. It breeds discord. Nari was scandalized. So you just pay whatever they ask? She couldn't believe she'd married into such naive people. What if they're cheating you? What? Ma'am, you're literally a princess now. Like, what are you fucking talking about? Stop. Like, I get that you grew up on the streets of Cairo, but you're not on the streets of fucking Cairo anymore. You're literal royalty. Stop. Like, no, knock it off. And then the next page, she fucking steals an orange from someone. Like, no. Now is, like, the ignorance. I couldn't. I was so fucking irritated with her. Like, I was so mad in the beginning of this book. Like, what the fuck is her problem? Then she started showing a little bit more of the Nari that I like. The only quote that I saved from this series is from Nari. She's married to Mutandir at this point, and he's pissy about some shit. And he says something mean to her and cruel to her. And then he's like, I shouldn't have said that. I'm sorry. I was upset about Jamshid and about Ali returning. And she interrupts him and says, I've had enough of men hurting me because they were upset. Her voice was hard, so much so that Mutandir looked startled. But Nari didn't care. She rose to her feet, placing her chador over her head. I won't have it from the man I call my husband. Not anymore. Oh, I love that line. I've had enough of men hurting me because they were upset. Because she hadn't done anything to him. He was just projecting his anger onto her, right? So, I love that so much. But then in Empire of Gold, she became more awesome and just like was, like I said, the character development. I really enjoyed the character development. And she does something without her magic, because at this point, nobody has magic anymore. And she saves someone and like is a healer, right? And she's this line, like, it got me a little emotional because she's just like thinking about what just happened and whatever, and then she finds herself crying and she thinks to herself, I am who I always wanted to be. Forget Daevabad's politics or the lack of whatever certificates the human world would never grant a woman like her. Nari was a healer and no one could take that away from her. And I was just so happy for her. I loved it. And then when this dude shows up, what does he show up with? The relics. Yeah, he brought like a thing of the relics. And they still think that Ali stole Suleiman's seal. And they're like, what would one call Alang with the man who stole Suleiman's seal? And she holds up her hand and has the ring and says, misinformation. And then this guy's like, that's not what we were told. Then your sources are out of date, Nari said, coldly repeating his words. I will give you one more chance to explain what happened to the Devas these relics belonged to. He buckled. They were executed for treason, that's all I know. And though they would have deserved it, I am certain the Banu Nahida would have never done anything as foul as giving them to the Ifrit. Then you're a naive fool. How many? How many what? Nari took another step in his direction and he recoiled. How many devas did she execute? Our people, Saman. How many relics did you bring? His heart was racing so fast, Nari thought it might give out. I don't know. Then count. Saman was visibly shaking, but he obeyed, reaching for a handful of amulets. His lips moved wordlessly. Out loud, Nari commanded. Come. You arrived boasting of how wonderful Manaiza is and presented her gift with such flourish. Surely you're not ashamed to delve into it, to hold each one and call aloud the deva she killed. And oh man, I just love that. And she stands there and makes him count. Yeah, it was just like such a great scene. I loved it so much. And then, oh yes, telling Dara what the fuck is up. And his dumbass, he's like, I had to do it, Nari. The people I believed were the Creator's messengers on Earth looked me in the eyes and begged me to. I was 18. They told me we would otherwise lose the war and our world would be ripped apart. And that's his explanation for why he slaughtered the people of Kizi. And the people at Kizi, the mothers and children you ripped apart, did they not beg you? Tell me, Nari demanded when he dropped his gaze in shame. Tell me how you could look at people, at anyone, hear those cries and not break. Tell me how you could do it again. You're not 18 anymore, Dara. You've got centuries on me. And do you know what I did when Manaiza asked me to join her, to view the massacre of innocents as an acceptable price for victory? I turned her down. Thank God. Like, he's just such a piece of shit. And I just love that she got that moment to tell him what the fuck was up. Oh my God. Ali is another character that I think just had great character development. Like I said, in the first book, he was entirely a religious zealot and very naive and kind of sheltered with how he viewed things and very like black and white with how he viewed things. He was like the extreme compared to his father, because his father saw a lot of gray area for things and things he found acceptable, where Ali was just like, wrong and right. That's it. But by the end of it, like, I love him. He's so precious and needs to be protected at all costs. I don't really have a lot of tabs about him, so I'll just kind of skip over that. But yeah, I enjoyed him as a character. And him and Nari make so much more sense as a couple. I buy that so much more than I ever bought her and Dara, which is to say not at all. Jamshid, I wish we had gotten a little bit more of Jamshid. I really liked him the whole time. We just didn't see him a lot. Muntandir was not great all the time because he was very much following what his father prescribed for him and choosing to believe his father's view of the world for a while. But then eventually he came around and was like, ooh, nope, Dad's gone off the deep end, fuck. So that was cool. And he just was so sassy. I loved it. Like in Empire of Gold, he's captured and left essentially almost to die. And I think, if I remember correctly, he gets tortured a little bit. But even in the face of this, he is sassafras. And so Suleiman was like a prophet, and that's how they had magic and whatever. So they're asking him, they think he knows the secret, and they're like telling him about like the magic being gone. And Dara says, we're not the ones who took the seal out of the city. That is why this happened to magic, is it not? Muntandir's eyes went wide with feigned innocence. Certainly seems like a strange coincidence. Then how do we restore it? Manaiza asked. How do we get our magic back? I don't know, Muntandir shrugged. Perhaps you should go make friends with a human prophet. Best of luck, truly. I'm guessing you have about a week before Daevabad devolves into anarchy. Oh god, he's so fucking funny. And then with Zainab, kind of same thing with her as with Jamshid, where I liked her when she was active on the page. And I thought she was a very interesting character. We just didn't see a lot of her. She was definitely more of a secondary character, but I really liked her. She made some fucking points with Dara. Oh man, I was like, yes! Fucking someone said it to his dumbass. Where is it? Yeah, he came to talk to her when she's like hiding from them. And talking about the temple, and he's like, jinn are not permitted there. We visited as Nari's guests. We went to show our support when she announced she'd be opening her hospital to Shafit. Bitterness laced into Zainab's voice. She and Ali were trying something different, a small way to make peace before you destroyed any hope of that in our time. That peace was ended by the Shafit attack on the Navasadam parade as much as it was by our conquest. I'm sure it's comforting for you to believe that. What a relief, after you'd already plotted the slaughter of my people, to learn you had a new justification to cling to. The sharp words cut closer than he liked, and Dara found himself automatically reaching for his usual defense. We needed no further justification. This is a Deva city. It should be ruled by Devas. Strange that, for a Deva city, Anahid herself set quarters aside for each of the 6 tribes and made the only requirement for entry a mere drop of magical blood. It's almost as though she meant this to be a home for all, and it's the rest of you who have twisted her legacy. Exactly! Fucking exactly! Oh my god. And then, just like 2 pages later, and Dara, she's still talking to Dara, and she implies that like he might hurt Manaiza. He goes, you think I would hurt her? He asked, appalled. I am her Afshin, and she is my Nahid. If she has erred, it is only because your father... My father is dead, Zainab cut in. I'm not going to deny he treated her with violence or that his rule left wounds, but he is gone, and handing Daevabad over to a monster because otherwise she'll kill us all is not a solution. Fucking thank you. Exactly. Jesus Christ. And oh my god. Anyway, yeah, so I really liked Zainab, but she just wasn't there a lot. And then Dara. Strap the fuck in, because I fucking hate this man. I hate him. I hate him, okay? I cannot stress this enough. So, in City of Brass, I didn't hate him in City of Brass. There were moments where I was like, dude, all right, stop. Like, you're fucking... Because he's very, like, he just hates the Shafit because... And he just is so duty-bound. And, like, I gotta do what I'm told because the Nahids. And I just will do anything the Nahids ever tell me to do ever. Because I'm the Afshin and that's what I have to do. I have to obey. Oh, my God. And it's like, okay, give it a fucking rest, right? But in the first book, I didn't hate it because he wasn't super extreme with it. But then towards the end, this fucking man, again, I didn't ever buy that their relationship was anything. They never were actually together. Like, they traveled for a few months and, like, flirted, liked each other. I think just because no one else was fucking around and because they were both hot. But, like, they didn't have anything actually to build upon, right? And then he's, like, trying to fucking steal her away in the end of City of Brass when he goes and, like, tries to take Nari away against her will. And I was so fucking annoyed with that whole thing. Like, just completely taking away her choice, her freedom, her agency over herself. I cannot fucking abide it. And just being like, well, I know what's best for you. Like, what? And she's like, I already told you I'm not leaving Daevabad. You are, he said, his voice quietly firm. Dude, what? What? Stop. What is wrong with you? And then she's like, I'll go. Don't hurt him. Because he's about to, like, kill Ali. So she just agrees to go with him to, like, de-escalate him. And, the issue I have with... Because he's basically being, manipulative. And to me, from my perspective, he's being, like, emotionally abusive. Like, he's threatening someone she cares about to get her to do what he fucking wants. And then she is doing what people in abusive relationships do. Just go along with whatever they're saying to try to de-escalate them. Because otherwise their temper is about to go out of control and you don't know what they're going to do and you're scared of what they're going to do. So you're trying to fucking de-escalate. And I just, I can't. I fucking can't. Like, I hated this so much. And she has to do it again. Not that much longer. Page 480. That was like 462. And they're like in this battle and like he sees red and he gets in a battle and he's just like, I'll kill everybody. And it's like, dude, what the fuck? So he's being like crazy and she's telling him, stop, Dara, enough. And then he's like, it's not enough. It won't ever be. They destroy everything. They murdered my family, my leaders. Like, give it a rest, dude. It was like 1400 years ago. Anyway, and he's like, I'll flay him until he's bloody dust. And he's like, they want you. And she's like, they haven't taken me. I'm right here. And then he goes, they have. You won't forgive me, the boy. Because at this point, it appears that he has killed one of them. I think Ali. They think he killed Ali. I'm like, how is that them taking her from you because of your actions? What? Like, he got in my way, so I killed him, and it's their fault that you don't want to be with me anymore. And then she's like, it doesn't matter right now. Can you make it to shore before they get here? And he's like, I won't leave you. And then she pressed the hand holding the whip, his hand. I'm not asking you to. She took the whip from him. But you need to let this go. Let it be enough. And then he looks up at Muntandir. The hate returned to Dara's face. No. Nari took his face in her hands and forced him to look in her eyes. Come with me. We'll leave. We'll travel the world. It was obvious there was no going back to what they'd had before, but she would have said anything to get him to stop. Just no, I hate it. I hate it. I can't express how much I fucking hate this. And like, obviously my reading experience is colored by my actual life experiences, right? As anyone's is. So my personal life experience of having done this in relationships, in one in particular, and like knowing that feeling of trying to de-escalate a man, not who's gonna like whip someone to death, but you know what I'm saying, like who is escalating and like learning that skill of like talking them down, and I just hate it. I fucking cannot. I don't give a shit what fucking trauma he went through. This is unacceptable. Like, it's not acceptable. And he's so stubborn and in his like doggedness where like his stupid ass mission has to be right. So here in Kingdom of Copper, right here, someone is like, Muntandir and him are fighting, and he's like, you have no honor, you brought an Ifrit into our city. There are Gaziri children who should be lighting fireworks now, lying dead in the palace because of you. Dara recoiled, trying to reach for the justifications Manaiza had offered. And how many Deva children died when your people invaded? Far more than the Gaziri children who will be lost tonight. Muntandir stared at him in shock. Do you hear yourself? What sort of man plots that calculus? Hate filled his gray eyes. God, I hope it's her in the end. I hope Nari puts a goddamned knife through whatever passes for your heart. Dara looked away. Nari had certainly seemed capable of that, glaring at him from across the corridor with flames whipping around her hands as if he were a monster. She was wrong. She doesn't understand. This mission had to be right. It had to succeed. Everything Dara had done for his people, from Kizi through tonight's attack, could not be for nothing. Bro, I fucking can't. And then this motherfucker, it says, he's talking about how their plan had gone wrong, the conquest went wrong. He's like, not just because of the Ifrit. It had gone wrong because in his heart, Dara had known this invasion was a mistake. It was too rushed and too brutal. They'd allied with creatures he didn't trust and used magic he didn't understand, and he had gone along, had bowed his head in submission to a Nahid again, and dismissed the disquiet in his soul. Now it had blown up in his face. It wasn't even the first time. His own history had taught him nothing. Yeah, fucking exactly. My point exactly. And this is in book 2, folks. There's a third book where his bullshit continues. So it's like, what's the point of thinking this, sir, if you're just going to continue down this road of idiocy and you're going to think this, you're going to have this moment of clarity and then continue being like, well, I got to do what I'm told. I got to obey. Like in the beginning of fucking Empire of Gold, like he goes along with these fucking plans that then backfire, and then he's like, oh shucks, it didn't work. It never works. And then right here he goes, we are never going to have peace, he despaired as he pushed through the doors she had indicated. Not after this. But he keeps doing the shit. I can't. Like then just a little bit later, here he does it again. People are shooting at him, and it's like people shoot at him or try to kill him, and he just is like, how dare they? It's like, dude, you're fucking slaughtering people? They're gonna try to stop you. And it's like Dar flew on, leaving screams in his wake. Let them scream. Better submission than a civil war, he tried to tell himself. Again, what's the point of having these fucking moments of clarity if you're just gonna turn around and do the shit again and say the same dumb shit you were saying before? I fucking can't. And he just does it because, like, he's obedient and he knows nothing else, no other way to be. You are the weapon of the Nahids, Dara reminded himself at last, the protector of the Devas, and a good Afshin obeyed. Give me a fucking break, dude. And then he sees that there's some Devas and Gaziris getting along. Dara steeled himself, hardening his heart once again, because he was about to undo such intertribal camaraderie. For why? For fucking why, sir? Please explain it to me. My God. And, like, again, with the dense bullshit, he says, Ghassan might have been a tyrant, but Dara suspected the brutal way the Gaziris had been slaughtered, the Nahid magic his people revered as sacred, twisted to deliver a gruesome death, was simply too much to accept. Oh, you suspect, do you? Wow. So fucking smart. And then again, just seeing red when he's like slaughtering people and they want to kill him. And he's like, any inklings he'd had of mercy were gone. The Gaziris and Shafit thought to kill him here at this hospital where so many of their forebears had slaughtered his Nahids and kicked off the violent sack of his city that had ended with the deaths of his mother and little sister. Dara would bathe it in their blood. My fucking God, you are unhinged to the max. Oh yeah, and then like, he treats people as less than human because basically his poor little conscience can't handle it if they're actually human. And I can't, like, because God forbid he hold himself accountable at all. He goes, he says, I used to believe it all, Cartier. I had to. Cartier's expression betrayed no judgment. Why did you have to? Because it had to be true. Because if the Shafit were people, innocent mothers and fathers and children, and I did to them the things I did, then I am damned. I am a monster, worse than the vilest Ifrit, and I do not want to be that. I was just trying to serve my tribe. I was 18 when the Nahid sent me to Kizi. I worshipped them, trusted them, and they lied. Oh my God, dude. Oh my God. Like, all these people giving him such wisdom, and he's just like, nah, I'll just keep doing what I'm doing. Like, fuck off, man. And then still fucking later, that whole part with Zainab where he's like trying to make justifications again. He's like, I'm her Afshin, she is my Nahid. If she has erred, it's only because... Like, he's just always trying to find justification for these terrible things. Even though he has these moments of clarity of being like, there is no justification. We should probably stop. But then he doesn't fucking stop. So I'm like, what the fuck? See, I fucking hate him. I hate him a lot. He's one of my most hated characters ever now. Like, he brought my enjoyment level down quite a bit of this series, particularly the last book. Like, look at all these red tabs. And green. Green is annoying, and red is like, I hate this. Like, I'm angry. They're all basically Dara. I just cannot fucking stand him. But, like I said, I enjoyed the series overall. Each book got at least 4.25 stars. And the first book got 5. I really, really liked it. I love this world. And yeah, I don't know. If she ever writes anything else in this world, I will read it immediately. Let me know your thoughts though if you've read this whole series. Do you think I'm being way too harsh? I've seen a lot of people not love Dara, and then I've seen some people love him. He seems kind of polarizing, but I don't know that I've seen anyone hate him with the fire of 1,000 fucking suns like I do. So yeah, let me know if you think I'm being too harsh. I mean, I won't care and it won't change my opinion, so don't waste too much of your time and energy trying to convince me that Dara's great, because no. I'm not gonna buy it. I'm sorry. This was entirely too long, but thank you for indulging me and letting me just kind of ramble endlessly. As always, thank you so much for your time. Hope you all have a wonderful day, and I will talk to you later. Bye-bye.